What's up? Oh, good, I'm glad. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna jump into Redux. I've already npm installed, always remember to npm install stuff. And it is the first library that we're gonna use for this. Now we're not going to see the web page update when we start using this because we won't have connected it to our app yet, but we will be console logging a lot of things to make sure that the store is actually changing. Okie doke. Jumping into the code, I'm gonna do this in index.js so that I can keep app pretty clean for the moment. And first things first, I'm gonna import create store from Redux. Does anybody already know what create store takes? Good. Is this what I want to do first? Yes, it did. Great. Oh, I'm coming for you.
Oh, refresh the page.
She's still winning. Oh, look at you though with the, I'm all the way down here with 58 attempts. I'm so ashamed. Wait, you don't know what, who asked what this is?
Matt.
Oh, Matt.
I know the app, but I mean, where is this posted?
Yeah, it's in their channel. Sorry, future people watching this video. Please don't listen to me lecture. Just try to crush Alona. Sorry, not sorry. For your whole life. Literally, the minute Jake posted where is the Slack, the minute he posted this, I was like, we gotta take her down. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wait, why is this not erroring? You should be erroring. Am I in the right file? Oh no, I'm in Sushi Saga's index.js. I was really confused why that wasn't erroring. And it was not me. Wahaha. Okay, now I'm in the right file. Create store from Redux. Let store equals create store. Hopefully create store will return to us a store thing. I'm just going to put that there for now. And then go back to my page and I stopped the server like a smart person. There we go. Da-na-na-na. And we immediately get this error. Create store expected the reducer to be a function. So it does take one argument. It takes our reducer, which is going to look very similar to the one that we already created. So I'm just going to define a nice little function up here. Let reducer equals nice little func and pass in reducer. I'm also going to console log for now inside my reducer func. And first things first, I just want to show you is that this gets called immediately. So my reducer is actually called, I will get this right. All right, my reducer is actually called when create store is run. Create store receives our reducer and immediately is going to run it so that it can set its initial state. We're gonna explore what this looks like in here. Just go with me for now. Reducer is gonna take two arguments, arg1 and arg2. In order to figure out what those are, we're just gonna actually look at them. Oh. Thanks, guys. Aggravated. All right, so arg1, undefined. This actually makes sense. I'll explain to you what it is in a second. arg2 is that thing. What's that thing look like? It's an action. It's an object with a type. That's an action. Now, it's got this really funky string here. Why do we think that this initial action that Redux, they call it Redux init, and then a whole bunch of other crazy things, why do we think that they would make that look quite so weird? This text string for the type of the action.
So that you don't accidentally do that. Is that actually one?
Essentially, so they want to like be entirely certain it's not going to inflict with any of the actions that you've set up and you do expect. You could expect an init as an action. Now, Should you realistically have a type that is at redux/net period? No, you shouldn't. But they've planned for devs don't always make great decisions. And so they've made this super complicated, so there is no way in heck your reducer is going to expect that action. No way in all get out. Because developers are humans and we make dumb decisions. So we deal with that. All right, so this is our action. This first thing is actually going to be priv state. And I'm gonna let initial state equal, what do we do? Like 0 is one thing that we had over there. I'm gonna give it a default of initial state. Let's just see these print out now. Done, done. Yes. Sweet. So our arg1 is going to be, what was our previous state? When the reducer sees some action, including this initial one, what did the state look like before? What is the action? Those are the two things being passed in all the time, regardless. Reducers here on out for us. Now, other things that we can do now that we have our store. Let's just inspect it to actually see what we've got with it. So store in and of itself is this object. It's got a few different keys on it, but there's really effectively two that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about dispatch, and we're going to talk about get state. They are hopefully like pretty self-explanatory, especially get state. Get state is just going to get back to us. Huh? You should not. Oh, nope, I do know why that's doing anything. Do you know why? Not quite, not quite. So what was the job of our reducer in this case?
It was just to say what the new state was going to be, but not actually change it.
Not actually change it, but it calculates what it's going to be, and it has to return it.
Yeah.
So we're not returning anything. And so we're making our state undefined. Why did I switch back to here? So if I'm actually in here, I'm gonna start to build out my switch case. So I'm still gonna switch on action.type, and I'm just gonna start with a default. And just have it return the previous state. That was my default case. And this, if you're just starting to build out a reducer, is a fine way to be like, this is all going to be a given. It will take previous state. I need to have some initial state defined to set as that default for the first time through in that init when it runs inside of create store. Its second argument is going to be this action. We're going to switch off of action type. And by default, let's just return what it already looked like. Let's just return the previous state if there was no action that was matched. Okay. So now it does it. Cool. So now when I do store.getState, I see like is equal to 0. So let's pull over, I should want this one over here. Let's pull over a whole bunch of this behavior. We're gonna pull over pretty much all of it. And then play around with both getState and we're starting to dispatch some actions here. This whole thing? Yes, I can. Bam, bam. Haha, powerful. All right, now the thing that I am going to do though is instead of breaking and returning new state at the bottom, defining it up top, I'm just gonna return inside of each of these cases instead of defining a variable. And doing that return makes those breaks obsolete. So I've done a little bit of all the tabbing. What was the shortcut for prettifying my tabbing? Option shift. Thank you. I look to you because I feel like you told me before. Okay, so now I've got my reducer set up to expect all of the same actions that we defined in message passing over in app.js. When we hit the like case, it's going to return this object with this .state.likes isn't a thing. What do I need to update this to? This is no longer something we can reference. We're not inside of that app component anymore. Prev state. I missed a couple. So what was this .state when we were inside of the app is no longer accessible. That's now defined as this first argument to reducer, which is why our reducer looks a little bit different here than it did in that first file. So one more little thing that I'm missing is I'm gonna go up to this guy and set this as our initial state. So we have everything over here that we did over there. All right, now, I know you guys just trust me, but let's go through and make sure that when I do store.getState that we see that initial state that I expect. Okay, cool, we do. We do. For good measure, I'm gonna change likes to 1,000, because I can. 10,000. I put too many zeros. Don't come for my life. All right, so that it is getting the initial state there. So now we've seen a little store.getState, so we can console log its current version. The other thing that I want to show you is store.dispatch. And what do you think that dispatch is going to take? It does have an argument. You have any instincts here?
It's going to take action.
And it's going to take some action. So maybe I could like send like through to it. Round. Actions must be plain objects. So you got to remember that any place we're expecting to pass an action through, like we dispatch different actions to our store, it needs to be set up as that object with our type key. So we can dispatch this action, the whole object, with a type of like to our store. I'm gonna console log for good measure in here, in reducer, with action, action.type. And then I wanna console log again after this, another get state. So we're gonna see the initial call to this with that init action, and then we'll see its current state console logged, the second action when we dispatch, and then finally its state after we've dispatched that action. So in reducer, we got this at redux, we got our whole state there, then in reducer like, gets this type like, and then updated my like but erased everything else. This is one thing that's different than set state that you guys have been using, is when we were just using set state, we could give it just the key that was relevant that we were changing, and that was all we needed to pass. In our reducer, we actually have to create a whole new copy of our state and then update whatever key. The way that we do that is using our spread. So I'm gonna say, make a copy of previous state, and then update just this key value. But I have to return the whole state that I want to be my new reducer state. It will overwrite absolutely everything, whereas set state would only overwrite the key that I passed it. So every single one of these is going to get, no, that's not what I wanted. A prev state. Now I'm being super nitpicky about my spacing. Don't mind me. No, too many. Fine. But I am gonna fix this because that's gonna hurt me. So this is one difference between what you've seen in set state's behavior and in your reducer's behavior, is that the new version that you pass back has to have a representation of the whole previous state with some updates. It's not just the key that you want to update. Let's make sure that did it. Sweet. likes 1000 in reducer like with type like, and then likes 1001, but everything else stays the same. All right. Yep. All right. Other things, let's dispatch some different actions just to watch this baby hopefully actually work. Let's do a couple likes. Let's do a toggle. Let's do a change text. And then this one is going to need a payload.
Yeah.
Do you want to write out my payload for me?
I am not going to change the text.
But what should my payload be formatted as? So looking at what we're expecting here, what should my payload be? Like, is this fine?
No. You need to have a key in that. So it has to be an object.
What are my keys?
It's going to be, well, name and then value is that, yeah.
Yeah. So name would end up being text. So what I might just do is actually switch to hard coding this as just text and simplify this here. That was really left over from when we were paying attention to the event and managing that being novel and being able to handle multiple inputs. Since now I've only got this one text and I know that here, I'm gonna hard code this as text and just get action payload value. All right, and then let's do one more. Add text. At the very end, we'll console log state. This is a reminder, this is like probably the most disappointing part of this lecture to me personally, is that it's not changing anything on the screen, and that's not very satisfying. But we will see in the console logs. Did I break you? Nope, cool. All right. So first, I have my initial state, likes 1000, text is empty, dark mode false, thanks. Oh, I didn't dark mode. Did I dark mode? Yeah, I did.
Dark mode is true.
Yeah, it is. And then I get one like, two like, a toggle, a change text, and an add text. And so I see likes at 1002, dark mode is true, text is empty because I ran add text after change text. Sets it back to empty, correct. And thanks has my some new text that used to be inside of here. But this is after all of those actions have dispatched. This is cool, except it's not updating our page. And that's where one more library comes in. Why? I don't know how I get that to open, but I don't like it. Okie doke. So, our next library is React Redux. And React Redux, super similar to Router, gives you, on the highest level, a component that is like your master component that's going to wrap around your whole application and give it access, generally, to all the tools from React Redux that it needs. It's called the provider. And the provider does, here we go, is it's going to wrap around app, just like browser router does. And provider expects one prop. It expects store, which we defined here. Now, this does not inherently connect each component inside of app to anything from the store, but it now gives those components the ability to connect. You have to have this top layer. And now app is the baby that I want to connect. And we've got a nice, simple connect from React Redux. They named everything very well, I feel like. Like provider provides the store to the whole application. Connect is a function that you're going to call to be able to connect this app, or this component rather, to your store and define what things you want it to get. So where do you use connect? Connect is going to come down here. You call connect with mystery func1, and mystery func 2. And this returns another function, which you then call with app. This is also fairly standard, without them being called mystery funcs. We will explore what they are momentarily. For now, they're just going to be mystery funcs. Unless you guys already know what they are. Great. Bam, bam, bam. Const mystery func 2 equals bam, bam, bam. Both of these guys by default are going to return an empty object. Mystery arg. Miss arg1. Because I'm lazy. It's arg2. Miss arg1. Why did I call that now? I'm confused. All right. So inside first func, and we're gonna do inside second func, and just look at what these things are. 2. Cool, cool, cool. Do I have everything set up appropriately? I think I do. If I have errors, we'll work through them together. Hey, cool. All right. So we've got that initial call from inside a reducer. So our create store ran our reducer once, and then inside first func, this is what that argument was. How would you guys describe what this argument is? It's just a state. It's just a state. It's a state of the store. That's what gets passed in there. So this first function we call map state to props. And it's going to be responsible for determining how app is expected to connect to our store. We'll use this to pass in props that are related to things that are currently in our state so that app has access to them. Now, yeah. Ignoring that error. The second one, what is the second one? Inside second func, F a function, dispatch. It's a dispatch function that's actually been defined by React Redux. So what this second function is responsible for is map dispatch to props, is for determining what behaviors should app be able to run on our store. The object that this will return here will be a series of functions app will be able to call to affect our store by dispatching different actions. Whereas this one, props based on state, app will receive. One other thing that I'm going to do before I update line 90 here is show you guys what you'll see as a shorthand sometimes. Sometimes you'll see MSP and MDP instead of map state, mass dispatch props, just because we're lazy. It's shorter and therefore often preferred. So we've got MSP and MDP, and for now, I'm going to leave MDP alone. First things first, I'm just gonna plan for, let's get our app rendering all of the information instead of based on state, the local state inside an app. Now I want it based upon my store's values. So I'm gonna go play around with my store's initial state so we can tell when our application is using it instead of this internal state. So we're gonna keep 1000, text will be minions, things will be bananas, and that jail scene, that's hilarious. Have you seen the jail scene?
No.
Yes.
Oh, no, it's been on me. Okay, I was like,
Just,
"Three minutes?"
yes, we're not gonna watch it right now, but I'm keeping it up so at the very end.
Okay.
Anyone that wants to join me for it can do so. All right, so I've now updated this, so we've got dark mode will be true, Likes are at 1,000, text is minions, and we got 2 things in thangs, bananas, and that jail scene. That's hilarious. All right. Let's go look down in here, and I'm gonna console log state in here right quick. In MSP. Okay. All right, so in MSP, state is this. And so what I need to do is I need to actually return an object that is all of the keys that I want to app, and it'll add props now to app based on my state. So I actually want the whole darn thing. But just to show you guys, likes, state.likes is gonna now mean that there is going to be a likes prop that app will receive, and it's going to hold state.likes. So on and so forth. I already forgot all the keys. Text, dark mode, thanks.
And it's not within the class, so it doesn't need to be, you don't need to use this state.
Nope. Now we're no longer looking at app's local state. We're getting the state from the reducer, from our store.
Oh. Where are we calling MSP?
Good question. Because we did that initially and then did like back at things. All right. I don't think it'll throw an error, but I will just in case. So the way that we actually use MSP is by passing it into this connect that is defined by React Redux. React Redux will run this method. It'll also run MDP, and it under the hood takes those 2 objects and then passes them to app as additional props. So what I'm gonna do is, now that we've returned this object, let's inside of this render, console.log app props, this.props. And for good measure, I'm gonna not have us return anything first so we can see it change. So app props, empty object. I didn't return anything from map state to props yet. When I do return these 4 things, now we get those as props into our app. And so one thing that's a little bit weird about this initial example is that we're taking the entirety of state. That is atypical. Your states are typically going to have a number of keys, and each component might need 1, maybe 2, if that. In this case, because this is smaller, we're gonna need multiple. When I have you guys transition into Sushi Saga later and start trying to implement this, and then we review on Friday, you'll see a difference where not every component will get every key from state. And this becomes a little bit more useful. Okay, now though, I wanna see all of the things. I don't wanna see this.thangs.map, any of that. Oh, you know what I'm also gonna do? I'm deleting all of this. Yeah, all of this is going away. Yeah, except the render,
So should we not store state anymore?
We're gonna talk about this, and I wanna propose it to you guys actually. Like, do we never need local state anymore? So think on it, come up with your opinions, and then towards the end of the lecture, I wanna know what you think, what your instinct is. All right, and then everywhere that I had this dot state dot, this might still break things. Oh, I might want to include dispatch. Yeah, okay. I'm going to make us a dispatch thing that's not going to do anything. Because I think now this won't break, maybe. What up? Yes, not breaking. So now I know for a fact that what my app is now rendering is connected to my Redux store. I've got this defined all the way over here, all this logic, but app can use it. And say app were this component down here, same thing. I didn't have to pass anything down into it when it was rendered by its parent. I just use connect and then map state to props, and it will get all of the props that I needed to. This is cute, however, we can't do anything because we haven't mapped dispatch props. So what's, I'm such a trouble right now. Here we go. So what's this guy about? This guy is also going to be an object. It's going to take a whole bunch of keys. And those keys for instance, will be like. This could be my like method. Is going to be a function that app will then call that can dispatch a like action. So this is going to give app a new prop like, which it can call, and when it calls that, it will dispatch it for us. The reason that we have access to dispatch is because of this connect. Connect runs through here and actually runs MDP, and under the hood passes it the dispatch function, thereby giving our component access to it to be able to dispatch the action. Now, I really like the trust. Two things we're gonna do to not just trust is A, look at the props, make sure like is now a prop on there, and B, actually use that and make sure that our app updates, which means our store is updating. So first things first, app props, I do have this like method now. So now let's go and use it. So this is that button. Now I can this dot props dot like for the on click. It should be hopefully that simple. What up? And so now using that connect and that dispatcher props, our app can run functionality that will update our Redux store. I love this. Let's do a couple of the easy-ish ones. The ones that didn't require any data. So the ones that didn't require any data, I'm actually gonna go and reference my reducer for this. The only one that references payload is change text. So we're not gonna do change text yet. We'll do all of the other ones first. So I've got like, this will be dislike, toggle, and I think it was add text, type, add text. I believe that one was change text. Yeah, change text is the one that needed payload. I'm not gonna do that one quite yet. I wanna see all the more simple ones that just need the type to go first. Dark mode. What? Oh, I'm not using any of them. Hilarious. I did pass them down as props, but I'm using nothing yet. All right, so these are all props now, but now I need to, dislike becomes this dot props dot dislike, add text, this dot props dot add text, and toggle this dot props dot toggle. And now all of this behavior. Cool. Oh yeah, that one doesn't work yet. This one does, cool. It's a really good thing that I already had words in there, otherwise that would have been really unfortunate. Okay, bananas. Now, let's get that last guy in here. So we do still need one more. Change text. But this does need some payload. And I forgot what I made payload look like. So I'm gonna go check. This is always where, like, if you forgot how you define something, just go look first. And know where to look. In this case, it's about what my reducer is expecting. It's expecting my payload to have a key of value, and that's the text that I'm gonna update. So I'm gonna make this value here. But how do I get this text?
So do we need a state language? No, we don't.
Nope. I'm just gonna say that when app calls the change text method, it's going to pass in my new text. This is a method that it now has access to. When it invokes it, it can decide what to pass in.
So,
internally to the app, it will be able to figure out what that new text is from the event.
right.
And so that's how I can pass it down.
So, wait, sorry, can you scroll up further? So, on change text. Okay, so on change has an event that's passing in the value in event.target. Wait, the payload, do you need to change?
We haven't updated it yet.
Huh?
We haven't updated this line yet, the highlighted line.
Okay.
So this dot props dot change text, and now this expecting event dot target dot value. So I can decide that when my app calls that method in its prop, it will pass in the text from the input field, which means that this method needs to understand it's getting that text and it needs to include it in my action payload that it's dispatching.
Gotcha.
This is why this is one of those things where it's like, it's gonna test your like JS skills and also just your like code management skills to the maximum. Because it's a lot of following through, where is the logic defined, where is it invoked, and are they in line with each other? All right, again, let's make sure I'm not lying to you. Haha! Minions are super cute. I wasn't a fan, but my nephew is. So.
That sounds like something Cal would say.
What?
Remember the Claire's
Oh yeah, the Claire's thing. Yeah, just like that. So, the key elements of React Redux are really two things. They are, most simply, our provider, and that it needs to take the store, which we get from using create store and our reducer. Then, with each of our components, we use this connect method and pass it map state to props and map dispatch to props, both functions that return us objects, and inject new props into our component based on our store and giving it the ability to dispatch actions to our store. Haha, great on time. I want to know what questions you guys have, and I'm going to give us another 5-minute break, or we can do questions after the 5 if you think that would be better. And then we need to talk about how to keep this code clean. Because one thing that I hate is that all of this is inside my index.js, which used to be so beautifully, don't be scared, just like that. That was so much better. It should still stick to that. So I want to talk through some best practices for how you organize your code when you're using Redux and how you create different constants and helpers to help keep everything very consistent across.
Very deliberate.
You're just like, really just like here for it. I'm supposed to be in here. But we'll talk about how to clean up your code to A, keep your files small, and B, help prepare yourself for the fact that like we're humans, we make errors. So how do we create constants and helpers to ensure that across our code base, I don't mistype a string someplace and spend 3 hours debugging, because that's trash. So by show of hands, do you want a 5-minute break pre-questions, or would you like to do questions now? Do you want to do questions now? Hands up. Great. All right. Take 5. Come back at 11:12.